I am Tiffany. I am a life strategist, career coach, and human resources professional. And welcome to Talks with Tiffany, my new podcast. I tried to figure out what direction I should go for this, like what my niche is going to be. And I don't know that I have a clear path about that, but I do know that I am very interested in having authentic and vulnerable conversations with interesting people. I'm particularly interested in how people rebuild their lives after devastating heartbreak, after the end of a relationship, a divorce, the loss of a loved one. I'm interested in how people rebuild after they have to take a major career pivot and start something new, try something different, something that they're unfamiliar with. I'm interested in how people are able to go on with life and make changes after they've had to let go of a friendship or a relationship that has been a constant in their life for many, many years. And the reason I'm interested in this is, well, firstly, because I feel like there's so many people in my age group that are going through these things. I think that there are so many people who have lived a fair amount of life and often don't have the tools, don't have someone to identify with, um, to get back into the game of life, to get back into that arena and to start living life in a big way after a devastating loss. And I get it, right? We've all been hurt. Often it's really challenging for someone who has lived a little bit of life to want to love again, to want to live again in a big way, to want to have wonderful friendships that are fulfilling and loving and engaging. So that's like one of my primary, probably my number one reason for wanting to do this podcast. I want to be the person that someone can identify with. I want to provide a platform where people can speak about pivoting after loss or transitioning to something incredible after loss. I've done it. I'll do it again. I always say, like, if I'm going to bet on anyone, I'm going to bet on myself. If I built an amazing life before, if I had a great relationship, a loving, connected, passionate, sexy relationship, I can do it again. If I had the job of my dreams at one time, I can do it again. If I had friendships that are fulfilling and kind and loving, where I see myself growing, I can do it again. I can do it again. I'm always willing to bet on myself. And I think that's really the key, is finding that spark, finding that thing within you that makes you say, you know what, this happened once and it was really terrible, but I'm willing to try again. I think about, like, I can't remember. It's not the high jump. What is that jump where they jump like over the bar? Like there's a bar and they have to like jump over it in the Olympics. I think about that sport a lot because I think about how they curve their bodies this particular way just to get over that bar, and they run and they jump over that bar. And sometimes we run and jump in life and we hit the bar, and it takes a whole lot of trying to get over. But I'm determined to get to the other side. I'm determined to get over the hump of rejection, over the sting of loss, over the pain of not knowing what to do or having to pivot. I'm just that determined to do it. A little bit about my background. I started my career working for I really started my career working for Woolworths. Do y'all remember Woolworths? Is that a thing? I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people remember that, but there was this store years and years ago called Woolworths. It was a five and dime store, is what they called it. And I started working at Woolworths when I was a teenager, and I really loved business. I really loved the business of the store. Yeah, I was interested in the area that I was working in. I worked in this area. It was called the hard line. I have to tell you more about my shenanigans working at Woolworths, but what I really discovered there was how much I enjoy work and I enjoy the community that becomes a part of your life, like the main part of your life because of your job and because of people being thrown together in this store, in this environment. So I started working when I was a teenager. I started working at Woolworths, and then I went and I worked a couple other places, but I would say the main part of my career began when I started working for an electrical contracting company. And at that contracting company, I was doing payroll. I was the payroll manager. I did accounts payable, accounts receivable. I did HR. It was a small operation, multi-million dollar operation, but a very, very small staff in the office. Anyway, I really enjoyed meeting people. I really enjoyed supporting employees. I did not love doing payroll that much. But hey, listen, I had the stomach for it, so I figured it out. But I worked there for a long time. I worked there for about 10 years. And then at the beginning of the financial crisis, I lost my position. I was laid off very graciously. They laid me off. We knew that the financial crisis was about to occur because as a contractor, once money starts slowing down, people are not making repairs or not doing renovations in the way that they used to. They are basically not spending their discretionary income in that way. They are just like doing the basics, doing what they need to survive. So we kind of saw that coming. I graciously was laid off, and for a while I was out of work. And it was really interesting because I had been doing that for the last 10 years of my life. And to change and do something new was just completely scary and unknown, especially because I wasn't going from that role into another role. I went from that role to having no work, not being able to get a job. It also happened that at the time, my then husband was like, well, maybe just staying home for a while might actually work. And it did. It did. It really did work for us for a while. I stayed home for a while, and then we had our beautiful baby girl. So I was home with her, and it really did work. But I will say this, it is really a shock to someone's system, especially if you identify deeply with your work, with your career, with your position at work, with your accomplishments. It's a shock to the system to go from that to having absolutely no work, nothing to do, not being able to find a job. And I remember being up in the middle of the night, just worried, sick, worried about what was going to happen next, how I was going to survive, how I was going to take care of my baby girl, worrying about what I would do for work, just worried. Those nights were so dark and so cold and so lonely and terrifying. Just awful. Just awful. Which is just such a stark contrast to my life now. I wake up in the middle of the night full of ideas. I wake up in the middle of the night, like hoping for the morning to hurry up and get here because I'm ready to start my day, to start living, to start enjoying my time. I'm in such a different place in my life right now. It's unbelievable. No, like honestly, my life is unrecognizable to me. But you know what? The crazy thing is, this is more closely aligned to the life that I wanted to lead. So it's so interesting that this is the way that my life would turn out. It's so fitting. And I often think about Magic Johnson. So I wrote my senior paper about Magic Johnson in college. and how he had to pivot from the thing that he loved the most, basketball, which I would think was the thing that he loved the most. He built his life around it. He was a star athlete at Michigan. He was at Michigan State. He was an amazing basketball player, in the NBA. And then he was a superstar. He was a freaking superstar. And then something devastating happens where it's found that he is now HIV positive. And at that time, there was such limited information around HIV and AIDS that the immediate reaction of the NBA was that he had to leave, right? And so I just remember seeing that and reading about him and seeing his life and just thinking, like, what do you do when you lose the thing that you love the most? Like, how many hours had he trained and played ball from a child all the way through his college career, and then to have something happen, like something like this occur when he's a professional, and to have to pivot out of being a professional basketball player to being what? Like, what do you do after you've done something in your career for so long? And you really, first of all, you're dealing with the loss, the trauma around losing whatever position, career, job, role that is, to trying to figure something else out. Like, what do you do? Anyway, he was such a inspiration for me because the way that he changed and pivoted his life into other interests that might not have come naturally to him, but maybe he had a bit of curiosity and decided to just pursue those things afterwards. But just that loss, the loss of being a basketball player, being out of this world superstar. I mean, Magic Johnson was like the hottest thing. And I mean, with a name like Magic Johnson, like, hello, Magic, come on. Everyone kind of knew who he was. Everyone knew his name. Everyone knew about the Lakers. They were an all-star team. There were so many amazing players on that team. But just to lose your career. And so at that time for me in my life, when I left my career, I was thinking about that. It wasn't voluntarily necessarily. Um, I don't think they dragged me out kicking and screaming, but we could see the writing on the wall. We knew that the financial world was going through a really tumultuous time. Businesses were closing, dying, fading. So I knew the inevitable was coming. I was a necessary part of the staff, but if there was no business, there was really no need for me to be there. Like, that's a salary that could, could be avoided paying. Um, and it's just really interesting, and it's just makes me think about how many people have had positions and careers and roles and then had to do something else. They've had to rebuild their life. And that is what this podcast is about. This podcast is about rebuilding after something is gone, after something is lost, after something dies, after something or someone transitions, or there's a major shift, a major life event. That's what this podcast is about. This is about how do you navigate these changes and what happens on the other side. So what happens on the other side is, so many things. I will say most immediately, or most recently, I work in human resources. I am a life strategist, a career coach. I've been doing personal development and personal transformational coaching for about the last 8 years. But I've been doing life coaching for I'd say for about a good 15 years. Unofficially, I would say for a good part, for about 5 or 6 of those years. And then in a more official role, because baby, once I got paid, it was on. Um, so yeah, this podcast, that's what we're going to discover. That's what we're going to talk about together. We're going to talk about rebuilding. We're going to talk about big loss and big gains and how to navigate life. Once you get the life that you want, how to go about getting the life that you want, even after devastating loss. So, if we go back to Magic, yeah, obviously it was I'm sure, a devastating diagnosis for him to receive, but now he's like almost a billionaire basically between movie theaters, cleaning companies, Starbucks. He has so many different businesses, and I mean, he's probably the most successful basketball player post career, right? So I'm not talking about like a Jordan, who Jordan had an amazing had amazing business acumen while he was actually playing. I'm talking about someone who had to navigate business. Magic had to navigate business without after he was a basketball star. He only got to be a basketball star for a short while. So that's what this conversation is about. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you're here to join me. I am looking forward to us connecting and talking and seeing where this journey takes us. Feel free to connect with me. I am Tiffany C. Nelson on LinkedIn and on Instagram. I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts. Drop a comment, a like, subscribe, and feel free to send me any questions you may have, anything you think you want me to talk about or you'd love to hear about. I'm really excited about what's next for us.